Welcome to another edition of the Committed 100 Ministry Group, where I am 100% committed to teaching the Bible to those who are 100% committed to learn. I got that out on one breath. That's not bad. Privilege, blessing, always to be with you with these daily offerings of expositional Bible teaching as we continue in part 157 of our exposition of the Book of Proverbs, currently in chapter 15. Good to have you again with us this fine day. And thank you again for clicking the like button. Thank you for sharing this ministry with others. Feel free to go to the home page and click the link and share it with everybody so we can get more and more people interested in verse by verse Bible teaching. I mean, when I think about it, and I do kind of think about how marvelous it is that going up through life, you always want to do something that you really love to do. And very few people ever get that opportunity. And there's nothing more, and I mean this, nothing more that I love than teaching the Bible. And in those rare moments where I'm not doing it, I feel as though I'm doing a disservice. But it's always been a privilege to do this for years, the Committed 100, and to keep teaching on Sundays. So we're looking at 6 days a week of Bible teaching. And I'm thankful for the opportunity that the Lord has granted to be able to do what I love to do. And I pray that we would all have that mindset to do what you love, but more importantly, do what's of the Lord and to bring him glory. All right, enough of that. Let's go on ahead into chapter 15, verse 11. Hell and destruction are before the Lord. How much more then the hearts of the children of men? I guess the question obviously is, do we really think that there is something that we can know or that escapes the knowledge of God? I mean, when you think about it, the grave, hell and destruction, the unseen world to a man is fully known by God in every detail. The greater is in the presence of God, how much the more the lesser. God is greater than our hearts, Paul says, and John says, and knows all things. And he knows both, or knows our hearts better than we know them ourselves, and therefore he is an infallible judge of every man's character. I mean, do we honestly think there is something that in our thoughts, the very thoughts of God are known before the world began? I mean, there's nothing that we're thinking, have thought, or will think in the future, if we have futures, that God doesn't already know. If the unseen world is in the presence of God and every intricate detail is known to him, I mean, come on, how much more the children of men? And that's something to think about. And that's not a bad thing for the believer, but here I think the context is the scorn is not going to get away. In fact, verse 12, a scorner loveth not the one that reproveth him, neither will he go unto the wise. And again, this goes to character. You know, sometimes we listen carefully. Sometimes we think that mockers and scorners really want the truth. We really believe that. We believe a lot of things, I'm going to say it, that don't make sense. This is why, look, y'all just have to get mad at me. I don't care. I'm tired of people that don't know this book. Sick and tired of us not knowing the Holy Scripture. That's a gavel I'm going to keep banging until my last breath, because I'm tired of people that don't know. And what we don't know, we keep filling in by our own emotions and experiences. God is very clear. He says, a scorner loveth not one that reproveth him, neither will he go unto the wise. A person who's a mocker of God, a mocker of truth and of his people, does not love or considers being their friend one who will correct him or her in any fashion. If you wonder why, whether it's family or work acquaintance or whatever, that people don't like you when you correct them, if you ever wonder why they don't, rather than trying to do some introspection to find the answer, why don't we go to the text? Now, let me say this, and this is very important too. Um, a lot of people, when they attempt to reprove people, well, this is going to sound kind of weird. Um, we already know what reproof is. We dealt with that plenty of topics in both testaments. But I think that some of us, listen carefully. You got to listen carefully because this might hinge a little bit. I think our attempts to reprove people are rooted in pride, almost like a well, we're better than you attitude. That's never going to work. We got to watch our own attitude towards reproving people. And someone would say, Mr. Howard, you are probably one of the most outspoken reprovers of everything. Yes. And I think throughout my life, I have the experience and earned enough of the blessing of God to look at the word and to be objective. But I don't do that with everybody. I think it's my reputation has been unfairly, you know, mistreated. I think that people look at me and they go, well, he's rude. No, I think that a lot of people know that I'm not that kind of person. And I can say, listen carefully again. I'm going to say, you may not believe it. That's fine. I tell you again, I can say things that you can say the exact same thing. And I guarantee you, people will receive it from me before they hear it from you. And I believe that's a work of the Spirit. There are a lot of people that are attempting to reprove others, and objectively, they really don't care about the person. They care about their own pride. Me, I care about the person. I want to make sure they understand this is what God is saying. You need to take this seriously. Another person can say exactly what I say, and it would be from their pride, not from any genuine concern for the soul. And I think that's a big difference. I'm able to say a lot of things. And I keep going back to what Dennis Worden said years ago. He said, Harley, if anyone else had said the things that you say, we would have removed him off the station. And I thought he's going to kick me off. He said, but clearly you're the one that the Lord has chosen to be able to do this. Only God can make that happen. And if you're trying to imitate me or others to doing it, I don't recommend you do that. I recommend you check your own heart because you ain't me. Be very careful about your pride. Very careful about that. Now, having said that, I'm of the opinion, frankly, that, someone who is a mocker, and more than opinion, frankly, it's the truth here, you don't love or considers being their friend one who will correct him or her in any fashion. I'm of the opinion that this person will not receive correction from any person, saved or lost. They're thinking they're okay. And at my stage of life, I've come to grow in this area, and it took a long time to do it because I always, one of my biggest faults is that I've trusted people. And I think that's a fault that if you care for souls and you want to see them where they need to be spiritually, you're going to be hurt because a lot of people that you and I have trusted in and trying to help, we should have left them a long time ago. Now, I had to learn that the hard way. And in all honesty, I'm too old to be dealing with that anymore. God willing, next month I'll be 70. So I'm not going to expend another minute, another second of having to deal with people for years about this, that, and the other. It's going to be very short between giving over my energies and my life to people that don't want to hear. I'm going to look at them exactly what the text is saying, that they're scorners. They don't want to change. Now, the scorner will never go to the wise, not for wisdom, lest they should give him wise counsel. Let me put it this way: there's no long line to my door wanting people wanting wisdom. They know I can give it to them because I've given it to multitudes of people that wanted it throughout the years, so they know it's available. And I just open the Bible and tell them what the Bible says. There's no question about that. That's my legacy. But there's no long line to the door. There's no long line of people on Facebook or Messenger that want to hear from me. There may be one, I know there's one wonderful sister out there in Alabama, and she has been asking hundreds of questions throughout the years. And I move heaven and earth to answer her questions because for her and her family, there is a great affection to God and His Word. So when she asks questions, boom, I'm there because I know that she is like one of a few people that really want to know. And I'm honored to be able to send her whatever material I have. But it may be 4 or 5 people in my life at this point that really want to know the wisdom of God. And she's on the top of the list. She's always wanting to know, what does this mean? And what does this mean? And am I reading this right? And 8 times out of 10, she's reading it exactly right. It's kind of funny because I say, you just answer your own question. And you know how that is because throughout the years, I've been helping her and steering her in the direction to answer her own questions. And she's doing it. And her husband is blessed and her family is blessed. And I'm thankful to be able to help her. But the scorner doesn't want that kind of person around them. Okay, fine. Okay, you don't want wise counsel? Fine. We ought not only to bid the wise welcome when they come to us, but to go to them. If we know that a person has wisdom, we ought to go to that person. You know, listen carefully. I think a lot of us waste a lot of time in prayer. Now, don't get me wrong again. I want to be very clear about this because some of y'all have a tendency to try to pick little itty bitty tidbits out of sermons and put together your rebuke and your refutation of things that are said. You've been making the case to go to God first. What's your point? You think that changed? That hasn't changed. I know what I said. I know what I meant. You go to God first. 9 times out of 10, He's going to answer your question. In fact, if you want to know the truth between you and me, if you knew your Bible, you probably wouldn't have to bother Him at all. Because a lot of things we're going before the Lord for are already answered in His Word. If we know it and obey it, we wouldn't waste time bothering the Almighty about these things. But having said that, God would send you a person, and if He's going to send you to a person, doesn't it make sense to you He would send you to somebody that has His wisdom? What sense is it for you go to God and you pray for wisdom, and either He gives to you directly from the Word, or He may send you to a person. You think He's going to send you to a dunce who doesn't know wisdom? Come on, people, let's do some thinking here, okay? We need to be thankful that God allows us to have people in our lives that have His wisdom because they're going to steer us in the right direction. And if we know them, we ought to seek them. The scorner cannot bear to reflect seriously the true state or condition within his own heart. They don't want to hear it. Well, you know what? Let me tell you something right now, friends. Take it from someone, how can I say this? I think who's wasted a lot of heart and energy and love and time in people that clearly don't want it. Let me tell you something. Make short accounts with people that don't want wisdom. Make short accounts of people that don't want it. Save your life, your energies for people that do. Make sure that the people in your sphere of influence want wisdom. Let them know that when it comes to the scriptures and the truth and the wisdom of God, that you're not going to engage in endless discussions about nothing. There has to be an end to this. There has to be, the end game would be God's glory. You give them the wisdom of God and then go on about your business, because it's up to them to do with it whatever they want. But scoffers and mockers, please do not waste your energies with these people. You'll live longer, you'll be more healthy, and you'll understand truth a lot better. Take it from someone wise enough to understand the pain of it. Verse 13, a merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance, but the sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken. Yes, Tabitha, you are correct, especially in my case. As we discussed previously, she said, waste of time on the human level, but it was also a part of God's plan. I get that. That's a painful plan. But as we discussed this past week at the park, yeah, the end result was definitely God's plan, and that was clear. But there are a lot of other people that I dealt with that probably I should have let them go. This one was clearly God's plan. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand why. But when God did X, Y, and Z, then I understood perfectly. And then he removed me from that. Then I said, now I got it. Sometimes these plans can be very painful. But if you can now, just take the advice from the old war horse. Make short accounts with the scoffers, please. Because what Tab and I talked about is very rare in terms of our experience. And I had the same issue with family and faith, same thing. And God said, it's time for you to get out of there. And thankfully I did. So when the Lord is doing stuff like this and putting you in circumstances where your testimony has to be him and him alone, I get that. But when you got people coming up to you and they're asking stupid questions, they're scoffing and mocking, don't waste your time with that person. All right. A merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance, but by sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken. Now, oftentimes, I want to make sure that I say this, oftentimes it's not a infallible science. And I'm discovering even that. You can tell who is truly joyful by looking at their face. Like I said, it's not a perfect science, because I've known some skinning and grinning, as they used to call it on Hee Haw, skinning and a grinning, and they are not happy. Okay. But if there's any joy to speak of, it will be heard from our mouths and seen in our face. You can tell a person who is joyful most of the time. I would say the majority of the time. And it's not something that's sporadic. There are some people that are naturally joyful. And it's ridiculous to argue opposite facts here. Many will defend their sourpuss by saying that they are indeed joyful, no matter what their face is saying. I don't really, I'm not really convinced that someone's face is always sullen is someone who is joyful. I'm not getting that. I'm not going to believe that for a second. Sooner or later, I mean, if you're running around like this all day long, oh, join the Lord. No, 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 no. The countenance shows a lot. Like I said, not an infallible science, but it is a science. Okay, the truth according to God is that if there is joy, it will be heard from our mouths and seen on our faces. And it's comical to see a person defending him or herself for their absence of joy by stating the opposite of the truth. There are some people who I think they make it their life's goal to negate everything God says. If God says this, they're going to negate it. They're going to try their best to ignore what God says because, well, they don't believe what God says. That's just too good to be true. I love that about James Staplebean. That saying just got to me. It's just too good to be true. It's too simple. It can't be that simple. Well, you seem to make your objections just that simple. You don't seem to have a problem negating what God says as something complicated you think is simple. Well, it is. Simply wrong. Now, they want to give you the impression that God has said that in this verse is not true of them. The pain that is in the heart of that person literally wounds the very life of that person. And we often like to hold on to pain and try to remedy the issue by our own means. And again, that's just pride and foolishness. The sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken. Now, sometimes we just need to say we're broken. Again, that goes to the issue of going to someone who has wisdom to help. Covering up one's wounded life by silly attempts of bandages of pride will result in even a greater disaster in your life. It will. And unnecessary, I might add. Verse 14, the heart of him that hath understanding seeketh knowledge, but the mouth of fools feedeth on foolishness. I mean, that's an axiom if there ever was one. The heart that possesses and understands an understanding of God and his wisdom and his will continues to desire more of it. Now, by desire, I do not mean a simple mind that speaks to itself that one day I will do such and such. No. Desire or seeketh means an active search and or a strong desire or even begging for something. In this case, more knowledge of God and his will. The mouth of the stupid person continues to engulf more stupidity. The mouth of the fools feedeth, or they eat it up. They're looking for it. They make it their life's goal to just engorge on stupid stuff. If there's ever a clear, I mean, it's like I have to wonder sometimes the things that I say are they even necessary? They're so axiomatic that there are people that are feeding on stupidity. They're feeding on foolishness. It drives them. Listen to what they say. Look at their behavior. Look at people. Look at how they're acting. You will see video after video of people that are just doing outrageously stupid stuff, especially towards any kind of law, any kind of right and wrong. And then when authorities come and they try to arrest them or whatever, these people lose their minds. They feed on it. People are being lied to in droves and are being told that this is normative and you ought to just go ahead and do it and resist and fight. And, now I'm hearing this lie more and more and more by people. They don't know what they're talking about. This is all the talking point, as they used to say in politics. But the line is, I know my rights. You don't know anything about rights. I know my rights. And they never explain what they mean. They just say it. I know what my rights are. So when you're approached by someone who represents the law and rights, and you say you know what your rights are, well, the one thing your right isn't is to resist the law when they have probable cause to do what they're doing. And then people get thrown on the ground, they're screaming, fighting, biting, kicking, cussing. These people feed on that. They feed on that anger. There's a lot of people that feed on it. You know it's true. They're like walking powder kegs waiting to explode. I mean, look at the people that are dealing with ICE agents and police authority, feeding on it. They're being told to hurt and to do worse to the officials doing their job. They're feeding on foolishness. Look at how people in the church are acting. Look everywhere. This stuff is everywhere. Feeding on foolishness, feeding on it. The mouths of fools, they feed on it and they blurt it out. You can tell that they're nothing but feeders and being fed by foolishness. This is what they want. And we have to be careful not to be involved in that, because it's all around us. And I tell you, one reason why we do it is because it speaks to the heart and passions of people's flesh and their mind. You can't have this stuff in your life all the time and not affect you. You can't do it. We have to fill our hearts with the wisdom of God. That's why this series is called The Contrast Between the Wise and the Foolish. We need to keep feeding ourselves on the wisdom of God, and we're going to be exactly where we need to be. All right, that's it for this offering today. Lord willing, tomorrow, Psalm 119. I'm going to make an announcement tomorrow because next week's schedule is going to be changed. Rather than eliminate it, I'll change it to probably the afternoon or the early evening for the entire week. Of prior commitments come up, but I don't want to cancel. So it will be probably late afternoon or early evening for the entirety of this week, or the next week, I should say. And mark on your calendar, August, the entire month, I'm taking a vacation. It's time, and I got to do it. And don't be upset or sad about it, because you got tons of material you haven't heard or seen yet. There's plenty of archive material that you could see. But just keep posted, keep watching the Facebook page, and I'll make it known what time next week that the programming will be available. All right, friends, God bless you. God keep you. Lord willing, see you next time on Psalm 119.